She introduced me as her mate. Then her sister started packing for our honeymoon. The diplomatic feast captain Marcus Thorne adjusted his formal diplomatic uniform one last time before stepping into the grand hall of the Verilunian Palace. The way, crystalline walls sparkled with bioluminescent patterns that shifted like living art, and the air hummed with the melodic chittering of the planet's inhabitants. As Earth's newly appointed cultural liaison, Marcus had spent months preparing for this moment, the formal feast that would cement humanity's alliance with the warrior poets of Verilune. The Verilunians themselves were magnificent to behold. Standing nearly 7 feet tall with elegant, elongated limbs and skin that shifted through subtle hues of blue and violet, they moved with a grace that belied their reputation as fierce warriors. Their leader, Matriarch Xylanda, gestured for Marcus to take his place at the crescent-shaped table carved from a single piece of luminescent coral. Captain Thorne, the matriarch's voice resonated with harmonic undertones. We welcome you to our sacred feast. May the bonds formed tonight strengthen both our peoples. Marcus bowed respectfully, having practiced the gesture countless times in preparation. The feast began with traditional presentations, each warrior sharing tales of honor and courage. The food was exotic but surprisingly palatable, with flavors that seemed to dance on his tongue in ways human cuisine never could. It was during the third course when she approached. Kalira, daughter of the war chief, moved through the hall like liquid starlight. Her warrior's frame was lean and powerful, adorned with the ritual scars that marked her as a veteran of the Crystal Wars. Her skin shimmered between deep sapphire and amethyst, and her eyes, those remarkable golden eyes, fixed on Marcus with an intensity that made his breath catch. "Honored guest," she said, her voice carrying the musical quality of her people, but with an underlying strength that spoke of command. "I would share my victory song with you." Before Marcus could respond, Kalira launched into a haunting melody that told of her greatest battle, how she had single-handedly defended a colony of younglings from crystal raiders. Her voice soared through octaves impossible for human vocal cords, and the entire hall fell silent in reverence. When the song ended, something shifted in the atmosphere. Kalira stepped closer to Marcus, close enough that he could see the intricate tattoos that spiraled up her arms, marks of achievement in Verilunian culture. Without warning, she placed her hand over his heart in what he assumed was a gesture of friendship. "Before all witnesses," she declared, her voice carrying across the now silent hall, "I name Marcus Thorne as my chosen mate. By the old laws and the sacred bonds, let it be known that he is mine, and I am his." The hall erupted in what Marcus could only describe as celebration, though the complex harmonies and rhythmic clicking made it unlike any human festivity he'd ever experienced. Marcus felt his face flush as hundreds of golden eyes turned toward him. The diplomatic briefings had mentioned various cultural customs, but nothing had prepared him for this. Matriarch Xylanda rose, her expression unreadable. "The daughter of our war chief has spoken. Do you accept this honor, Captain Thorne?" Marcus's mind raced. This had to be some sort of ceremonial gesture, perhaps a way of showing trust or alliance. To refuse might be seen as an insult, potentially damaging the delicate negotiations that had brought him here. Besides, Kalira was undeniably magnificent. Her fierce beauty and obvious strength were captivating in ways he hadn't expected. I am honored by Kalira's choice," he managed, hoping his diplomatic training would see him through whatever cultural significance this held. The celebration intensified, and Kalira's smile was radiant as she took his hand. Her skin was warm, almost fevered, and Marcus felt an unexpected jolt of electricity at her touch. "Rest well tonight, my chosen," she whispered, her breath warm against his ear. "Tomorrow begins our new life together." As the feast continued around them, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that he had just agreed to something far more significant than a simple ceremonial gesture. Morning surprise. Marcus woke to the gentle chiming of Verilune's twin suns, filtering through the bioglass windows of his guest quarters. The diplomatic suite was comfortable by human standards, though the furniture seemed designed for beings considerably taller than himself. He stretched, trying to process the events of the previous evening through the lens of a clearer head. Had he really been publicly declared someone's mate? The whole situation felt surreal, like something from one of those adventure holovids his sister enjoyed. Surely it was just a cultural formality, a way of showing acceptance or trust. He'd probably laugh about it with Kalira later, once he figured out how to politely explain that humans didn't typically make such commitments after a single evening. A soft chiming at his door interrupted his thoughts. Marcus quickly pulled on his uniform jacket, expecting perhaps a servant with breakfast or a message from the matriarch about today's diplomatic schedule. Instead, he opened the door to find a young Veralunian woman standing in the corridor, surrounded by what appeared to be luggage. Lots of luggage. She was smaller than Kalira, with skin that cycled through lighter shades of blue and silver. Where Kalira bore the scars and bearing of a warrior, this woman had an almost scholarly appearance, her movements quick and precise. Her golden eyes sparkled with what Marcus could only describe as mischief. "Greetings, bondmate," she said cheerfully, her voice higher and more melodic than Kalira's, but carrying the same harmonic undertones. "I am Vaisha, second daughter of War Chief Corvani and sister to your chosen mate Kalira. I have come to prepare for our journey." Marcus blinked, certain he had misheard something in translation. "I'm sorry. Your journey." "Our honeymoon journey. Of course." Vaisha's skin brightened to an almost pearl-like luminescence, apparently a sign of excitement. "The matriarch has arranged for us to visit the crystal caves of Valmore, a most sacred site for bonding ceremonies. The transport departs at the next tide singing." "Us?" Marcus repeated weakly. Vaisha tilted her head, her expression shifting to one of confusion. "But of course, by accepting Kalira as your mate, you have entered the sacred bond with all unclaimed daughters of the household. Did your diplomatic briefings not explain our customs?" Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. "All unclaimed daughters?" "Oh yes." Vaisha clapped her hands together, producing a sound like wind chimes. "In our culture, when a warrior chooses a mate, he becomes bonded to the family line. All sisters who have not yet chosen their own mates become part of the bonding circle. It ensures strong bloodlines and prevents the weakening that comes from too much separation." She gestured to her luggage with obvious pride. "I have been preparing since the moment Kalira made her declaration. I packed my finest ceremonial robes, my research crystals. I study xenobiology, you know, and several volumes of poetry I thought you might enjoy. Human culture is fascinating." Marcus leaned against the doorframe, feeling suddenly dizzy. "Vaisha, I think there might be some confusion. I mean, last night I thought it was ceremonial, a diplomatic gesture." Vaisha's skin pattern shifted to a cooler blue and her expression became more serious. "Oh my, you truly do not understand, do you?" She stepped closer, her voice gentling. "Marcus, may I call you Marcus? Among our people, the choosing ceremony is the most sacred of bonds. It cannot be undone except through the rite of sundering, which—" She paused, looking uncomfortable. "Which what?" Marcus prompted. "Which requires the rejected mate to publicly renounce the bond before the entire clan council, while undergoing the trial of worth. It involves combat challenges, public proclamations of unworthiness, and—" She winced. "It is considered deeply shameful for all involved. Most who attempt it are cast out from society entirely." Marcus felt his knees go weak. "And if I don't go through with this sundering thing, then you are bonded to both Kalira and myself, as is proper and traditional." Vaisha's skin brightened again, apparently interpreting his question as acceptance. "Oh, this is wonderful. I have so many questions about human customs. Do you really only bond with one mate at a time? How do you ensure genetic diversity? And is it true that human males are the ones who typically initiate courtship?" Before Marcus could answer, another voice echoed down the corridor. Kalira's distinctive harmonics carried clearly as she called out, "Vaisha, have you greeted our mate properly?" Marcus closed his eyes and took a deep breath. When he opened them, Vaisha was looking at him with an expression of eager anticipation. "Perhaps," he said carefully, You could help me understand more about these customs before your sister arrives. Vaisha beamed, her entire form now radiating soft silver light. Of course, this is going to be such an adventure. Cultural complications. Marcus spent the next hour getting what he could only describe as a crash course in Verilunian bonding customs from an increasingly enthusiastic Vaisha. She had arranged her luggage neatly in his sitting area and was currently consulting what appeared to be a crystalline tablet while explaining the intricacies of multi-partner relationships. You see, she said, her skin cycling through excited patterns of blue and silver. The bonding circle ensures that families remain strong. When warriors like Kalira choose their mates, it creates opportunity for scholarly types like myself to also find companionship without having to go through the traditional combat trials. Combat trials? Marcus asked, though part of him wasn't sure he wanted to know. Oh yes. Normally I would have to prove my worth through single combat with other suitors. But I am much better with research crystals than weapons. This way, I can contribute to the bond through knowledge and study while Kalira provides the warrior strength. It is quite efficient. Marcus rubbed his temples, feeling a headache building. And there's really no way to politely decline this arrangement? Vaisha's expression grew serious, her skin shifting to deeper blue tones. The rite of sundering is the only way, but Marcus, you must understand. It would not just affect you. Kalira would be shamed before the entire clan. Her honor as a warrior would be questioned. And she looked down at her hands. I would likely never have another opportunity for bonding. Few would accept a rejected sister. Before Marcus could respond, heavy footsteps echoed in the corridor outside. Kalira's voice boomed with authority. Sister, where have you taken our mate? The door slid open without announcement, and Kalira strode in wearing what appeared to be formal traveling gear. Her armor gleamed with polished metals Marcus didn't recognize, and her weapons harness suggested she was prepared for anything from a diplomatic meeting to a small war. Ah, there you are, she said, her golden eyes warming as they fixed on Marcus. I hope Vaisha has not overwhelmed you with her questions. She has been bouncing off the wall since dawn, eager to begin our journey. Journey? Marcus managed. To the crystal caves, of course. Kalira moved to a window that offered a view of the palace's landing platforms. The matriarch has arranged for us to take the sacred pilgrimage that all newly bonded triads must complete. It is a great honor. The caves have been sealed to outsiders for over 2 centuries. Marcus followed her gaze and felt his heart sink. On the platform below, a sleek spacecraft was being loaded with supplies, while a crowd of Verilunians in ceremonial dress gathered nearby. Banners bearing what he assumed were clan symbols fluttered in the alien breeze. That's quite a gathering, he observed weakly. Of course, Vaisha chimed in. The bonding of a war chief's daughter to an off-world diplomat is unprecedented. The matriarch has declared it a celebration of interspecies unity. Representatives from all the major clans will be attending. Kalira nodded, her expression growing more serious. Which is why, my chosen, we must discuss something important. She moved closer to Marcus, her presence both intimidating and oddly comforting. I know our customs may seem strange to your people. If you truly wish to be free of this bond, I will support you in the rite of sundering. You would? Marcus looked between the two sisters, surprised by the pain that flickered across both their faces. I am a warrior, Kalira said simply. I would rather face the shame of rejection than force an unwilling mate into bondage. But you must choose quickly. Once we board that transport, the sacred journey begins, and the bonding becomes permanent under clan law. Vaisha stepped forward, her skin now cycling through nervous patterns of pale blue and white. Marcus, I know this is overwhelming, but please consider, this alliance could mean everything for both our peoples. The matriarch speaks of trade agreements, technology sharing, cultural exchange programs, and, Kalira added with something that might have been a smile, despite her scholarly appearance, Vaisha is the finest xenobiologist on Verilune. She could teach your people much about our world while learning about yours. The knowledge exchange alone would be invaluable. Marcus looked out the window again at the gathering crowd, then back at the two sisters. Kalira, fierce and proud, willing to sacrifice her honor for his comfort. Vaisha, brilliant and eager, seeing this as an opportunity for unprecedented scientific collaboration. How long, he asked slowly, is this sacred journey supposed to last? The traditional pilgrimage lasts one full cycle of the twin moons, Vaisha replied. About 3 standard weeks in your measurement. 3 weeks, Marcus repeated. And during that time? Kalira's skin shifted to warmer tones. We would learn each other's ways, share stories, customs, knowledge. The caves are said to reveal the true nature of those who enter them together. Marcus took a deep breath. 3 weeks to figure out a solution that wouldn't destroy 2 remarkable women and potentially damage crucial diplomatic relations. 3 weeks with a warrior poet who had publicly claimed him and a brilliant scientist who saw him as the key to unprecedented collaboration. What could possibly go wrong? The sacred journey begins the transport ship. Harmony's Edge was unlike anything Marcus had ever seen. Built from the same bioresponsive materials as the palace, it seemed to pulse gently with its own heartbeat. The interior was designed for Veralunian physiology but had been hastily modified with human-sized accommodations, a fact that became apparent when Marcus had to duck through most doorways. As they lifted off from the palace platform, Marcus caught a glimpse of the crowd below. Hundreds of Veralunians had gathered to witness their departure, their skin patterns creating a kaleidoscope of color and light. He spotted matriarch Xylanda at the center, her ancient form glowing with ceremonial bioluminescence. Second thoughts? Kalira asked, settling into the seat beside him. She had changed from her formal armor into traveling clothes that somehow made her seem more approachable, while still radiating quiet strength. Third and fourth thoughts, Marcus admitted. This is all happening so fast. Vaisha looked up from the navigation console where she was apparently making adjustments to their route. I have been studying the crystal caves for years, she said excitedly. The geological formations alone are fascinating, but the caves also contain some of the oldest Veralunian art and poetry. You will be among the first outsiders to ever witness them. The ship's pilot, a grizzled Veralunian veteran named Korath, announced their departure from the atmosphere. Through the viewport, Marcus watched Veralun's surface fall away, revealing a world of impossible beauty. Crystalline cities caught and reflected the light of the twin suns, while vast forests of silver-leafed trees created patterns that seemed almost deliberately artistic. It is beautiful, Marcus said softly. Wait, until you see the caves, Kalira replied. They are said to show each visitor something different, reflections of their deepest selves. As they traveled, Marcus found himself relaxing, despite the bizarre circumstances. Vaisha proved to be an engaging conversationalist, her questions about human culture thoughtful and insightful. She was particularly fascinated by the concept of individual choice in relationships. So humans typically choose one mate and remain bonded only to them? She asked, her skin cycling through curious patterns of pale blue and green. Usually, yes, though our customs have evolved over time. Some cultures practice different arrangements, but monogamy is most common. Kalira leaned forward with interest. And how do you handle conflicts of personality? If one mate proves incompatible, there is no other to balance the relationship. Marcus found himself explaining concepts of divorce, separation, and remarriage, ideas that seemed to fascinate both sisters for different reasons. It seems both more flexible and more fragile than our system, Vaisha observed. More freedom, but also more potential for isolation. Their conversation was interrupted by Korath's announcement that they were approaching the crystal caves. Marcus moved to the viewport and gasped at what he saw. The caves were located in a massive asteroid that had been captured in Veralun's orbit millennia ago. The entire surface was covered in formations that looked like frozen waterfalls of light, crystals that caught and refracted starlight into impossible rainbows. Ancient structures carved from the living rock indicated this had once been a significant settlement. The caves extend deep into the asteroid's core, Vaisha explained as they docked. Some passages have never been fully explored. The crystals here are unique. They respond to emotional resonance and create harmonic frequencies that can induce various states of consciousness. States of consciousness? Marcus asked. Kalira gathered her pack, which Marcus noted included several items that looked distinctly weapon-like. The caves are said to reveal truth about ourselves, about our relationships with others. It is why bonding triads make the pilgrimage, to ensure their bonds are based on genuine compatibility rather than mere attraction or convenience. As they disembarked, Marcus felt a strange tingling in the air. The caves seemed to hum with energy, and he could swear he heard distant music echoing from their depths. The songs of the ancestors, Vaisha whispered, her skin now glowing with soft silver light. They say the greatest heroes and poets of our people left their essence in these crystals. Their wisdom guides those who come seeking truth. They entered through a grand archway carved with symbols Marcus didn't recognize. The tunnel beyond was wide enough for all three to walk abreast, lined with crystals that began to glow more brightly as they approached. The crystals respond to our presence, Kalira explained. They will light our way, and she paused as the crystals suddenly flared with brilliant intensity. The tunnel filled with harmonious tones, and Marcus felt a strange sensation, as if something was examining him from the inside out. The crystal's glow settled into a steady, warm light that seemed to pulse in rhythm with his heartbeat. Fascinating, Vaisha breathed. I have never seen them respond so strongly to an outsider. What do you think it means? Marcus asked. Kalira and Vaisha exchanged glances, their skin patterns shifting through what Marcus was beginning to recognize as amazement. I think, Kalira said slowly, the caves have accepted you as one of us. As they ventured deeper into the tunnel, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that whatever truths these caves revealed, there would be no going back to the simple diplomatic mission he had originally signed up for. Revelations in crystal light deep within the asteroid's heart. The tunnel opened into a vast cavern that took Marcus's breath away. The ceiling soared hundreds of feet above them, supported by massive crystal formations that pulsed with inner light. The walls were covered in intricate carvings that seemed to tell the story of Veralunian civilization, while smaller crystals grew from every surface like frozen flowers. The Chamber of Reflections, Vaisha whispered, her voice carrying clearly in the cavern's unique acoustics. This is where bonding triads traditionally spend their first night together. Marcus noticed that the chamber was already prepared for them. Sleeping arrangements had been set up in 3 distinct areas, each surrounded by different colored crystal formations. Blue crystals surrounded one area, violet another, and the third was bathed in golden light. The crystals choose, Kalira explained, seeing his questioning look. They resonate with our individual energy patterns and provide the appropriate environment for rest and reflection. As they settled in, Marcus found himself drawn to the golden crystal formation. The stones hummed softly as he approached, and he felt a strange sense of homecoming despite being countless light years from Earth. You are adapting remarkably well, Vaisha observed, unpacking her research equipment near the blue crystals. Most off-worlders find the crystal resonance overwhelming. At first. Maybe I'm more adaptable than I thought, Marcus replied, settling onto the surprisingly comfortable bedding the crystals seemed to have shaped for him. As the cavern's light dimmed to simulate nightfall, the 3 of them shared a meal of travel, rations that tasted far better than Marcus had expected. The conversation flowed easily, covering everything from interstellar politics to personal dreams and fears. I must confess something, Kalira said, as they finished eating. Her skin had shifted to deeper, more serious tones. When I chose you as my mate, it was not entirely spontaneous. Marcus felt his pulse quicken. What do you mean? I had been watching you throughout the feast, the way you listened to our stories, how you showed genuine respect for our customs without condescension. Most off-world diplomats treat us as curiosities to be studied. You treated us as equals to be understood. Vaisha nodded agreement. I had reached the same conclusion from my observations. Your questions about our culture showed real intellectual curiosity, not just diplomatic necessity. Marcus found himself studying both women in the crystal light. Kalira's fierce exterior masked a thoughtful intelligence, while Vaish's scholarly demeanor couldn't hide her adventurous spirit. They were both remarkable in their own ways. "I have something to confess as well," he said slowly. "When I accepted Kalira's choice, it wasn't just diplomatic courtesy. There was something about both of you that—" He struggled for words. "That felt right somehow." The crystals around them began to pulse more brightly, and the cavern filled with harmonious tones that seemed to resonate in Marcus's bones. "The caves approve," Vaisha said softly, her skin now glowing with silver radiance. "They are responding to honesty between us." "But I still don't understand how this could work," Marcus continued. "Our species are so different. Our lifespans, our cultures, our basic biology." Kalira moved closer, her golden eyes reflecting the crystal light. "Perhaps that is why it could work. Our differences could make us stronger together than any of us could be apart. Consider the practical benefits," Vaisha added, though her tone was gentle rather than clinical. "Kalira's warrior skills combined with your diplomatic experience and my research abilities. We could accomplish things that would be impossible individually." The crystals continued their gentle chorus, and Marcus felt something shifting inside him. A recognition that this bizarre situation might actually make sense in ways he hadn't considered. "And personally?" he asked. Kalira reached out to touch, his hand, her skin warm and somehow electric against his. "Personally, I find myself caring for you more than I expected. Not just as a political alliance, but as—" She searched for words. "As someone I want to know better. Someone I want to share experiences with." "I feel the same," Vaisha admitted, her skin cycling through patterns Marcus was learning to recognize as vulnerability. "I know this began as tradition and politics, but being here with both of you feels like the beginning of something wonderful." Marcus looked around the crystal cavern, at these two remarkable women who had somehow become part of his life in the space of 2 days. The logical part of his mind insisted this was impossible, that relationships didn't work this way, that he should find a graceful exit strategy. But another part of him, a part that was growing stronger in the presence of the singing crystals, wondered if maybe he was thinking too much like a human and not enough like someone who could learn to be part of something larger. "So what happens when we return to the palace?" he asked. "That," Kalira said with a smile that was both fierce and tender, "depends on what we decide together." The crystals sang around them as the three settled in for their first night in the Yokar, sacred cavern, each lost in thoughts of possibilities they had never dared to imagine. Outside, the twin moons of Verilune cast their light through the asteroid's crystal formations, creating patterns of rainbow radiance that seemed to dance with promise. For the first time since stepping off the transport, Marcus allowed himself to think that maybe, just maybe, this diplomatic mission had become something far more meaningful than he had ever expected. As sleep took them in the gentle embrace of crystal song, none of them noticed the small recording device Vaisha had quietly activated. Not for any nefarious purpose, but because she was, after all, a scientist. And this was data that the xenobiological community would find absolutely fascinating. The caves sang their ancient songs through the night, and in the morning everything would begin to change.